My name is Nicole, and I am 34 years old. For 8 years, I believed I had built the kind of life people dream about. A loving husband, a beautiful daughter, a home filled with warmth and laughter. I thought Derek and I would grow old together, watching our little girl become a woman. But there was a secret hiding beneath our perfect life, one I never saw coming. My husband left me for another woman, a woman who was pregnant with what he believed was his child. What Derek did not know was that I had discovered something that would change everything. Before I share my story, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The first time I saw Derek, I was 26 years old and had just started my very first job after finishing my master's degree in accounting. I remember walking into that office building, nervous and excited, clutching my new briefcase like it was a lifeline. The company was a mid-sized real estate firm in Columbus, Ohio, and I felt like I had finally arrived somewhere important. I was rushing down the hallway toward my new desk when it happened. A tall man in a navy blue suit came around the corner, a cup of coffee in his hand, and we collided. The coffee went everywhere, mostly on my cream-colored blouse. I stood there frozen, watching the brown stain spread across my chest, unable to process what had just happened on my very first day. The man apologized profusely. His name was Derek, he told me, and he was a project manager for a construction company that partnered with my firm. He was 28 with dark hair and green eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He insisted on buying me lunch to make up for ruining my outfit. I said no at first, but he was persistent in a charming way, not pushy, just genuinely sorry and determined to make things right. We had lunch at a small Italian place 2 blocks from the office. He made me laugh with stories about his construction site mishaps, and by the end of the hour, I had forgotten all about the coffee stain. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him without hesitation. Derek was everything I had hoped to find in a partner. He called when he said he would call. He showed up when he said he would show up. For 2 years, he pursued me with a consistency that made me feel safe and cherished. Every Friday, he brought me flowers, sometimes roses, sometimes wildflowers. He picked from a field near his apartment. He remembered the little things like how I took my coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of cream, or how I always got cold in movie theaters and needed an extra jacket. The night he proposed, he took me back to that same Italian restaurant where we had our first lunch. He got down on one knee right there between the tables, and I cried so hard I could barely say yes. The ring was modest but beautiful, a simple diamond on a gold band that caught the light in a way that made my heart flutter every time I looked at it. Our wedding was small but perfect. About 80 guests gathered in a little chapel outside Columbus on a warm September afternoon. My mother cried. His mother smiled tightly, but I did not think much of it at the time. Derek held my hands and looked into my eyes and said the words I would replay in my mind for years to come. I will always protect you. I will always choose you, no matter what. We bought a small house in the suburbs, a cozy 3-bedroom with a backyard big enough for a garden. I planted tomatoes and basil. Derek built a little patio where we would sit in the evenings drinking lemonade and talking about our days. Life felt complete. 2 years into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. Derek was over the moon. He read every parenting book he could find. He painted the nursery a soft yellow, spending 3 weekends, getting the color just right. He talked to my belly every night, telling our unborn baby about all the adventures they would have together. Lily came into the world on a snowy January morning. She was 7 pounds 4 ounces with a tuft of brown hair and the tiniest fingers I had ever seen. When Derek held her for the first time, he wept. "She is perfect," he whispered, "just like her mother." Those first few years of parenthood were exhausting, but wonderful. Derek was an active father, changing diapers at 3 in the morning, walking Lily around the house when she was colicky, taking her to the park every Saturday, so I could have a few hours to myself. We had our routines, our rituals. Sunday dinners were family time with Derek, cooking his famous spaghetti, while Lily and I set the table. We watched movies together on Friday nights, the three of us piled on the couch under a mountain of blankets. Lily grew into a sweet, curious child. She had my brown hair and my blue eyes and Derek's stubbornness. She loved butterflies and picture books and asking questions that I could not always answer. Why is the sky blue? Mommy. Where do stars go during the day? I treasured every moment with her, storing up memories like precious stones. But even in those happy years, there were small moments that troubled me. When Lily was about 4, Derek started working longer hours. He said it was for a promotion, that the extra effort would pay off for our family. I believed him. I supported him. I made sure dinner was ready whenever he got home, no matter how late. His mother, Gloria, had never quite warmed to me. She had a way of making pointed comments that stung, comparing me to her friends' daughters-in-law, questioning my cooking, my housekeeping, my career choices. Derek always told me to ignore her, that it was just how she was, but I noticed he never actually defended me. He would change the subject or leave the room, and I would be left standing there feeling small. There were times when Derek forgot things. Our anniversary one year. Lily's ballet recital another time. He apologized and each time blamed work stress, and I forgave him. That is what wives do, I told myself. We forgive. We understand. We keep the family together. Looking back, I can see the cracks forming even then, but I was too in love, too invested, too determined to believe in the life we had built. I did not want to see what was right in front of me. I did not want to admit that the man who had promised to always choose me might be slowly turning away. The changes started subtly, so gradually that I almost did not notice at first. Lily was 5.5 years old, and Derek had begun coming home later and later. 8 o'clock became 9 o'clock. 9 became 10. Sometimes he would not walk through the door until almost 11, long after Lily was asleep, and I was sitting alone in the living room waiting. He always had explanations. A project running behind schedule, a client dinner that went long, an emergency at the construction site that needed his personal attention. I had no reason to doubt him. Derek had always been dedicated to his work, and I understood that success required sacrifice. But then I started noticing other things. He had a new phone, sleeker and more expensive than the old one. He kept it face down on every surface, and when I picked it up once to hand it to him, he snatched it away so quickly that I flinched. He laughed it off, said he was just startled, but his eyes did not match his smile. He changed his passwords. He started using a different email for personal things. He went to the gym more often, coming home with damp hair and a distant look in his eyes. He bought new clothes, tailored shirts, and slim-fit pants that he had never cared about before. He started wearing cologne, a scent I did not recognize, something woodsy and expensive that lingered in the air after he left each morning. I tried to compliment him on how good he looked. He barely acknowledged me. I tried to initiate conversations about his day, and he gave me one-word answers. I tried to reach for him in bed, and he turned away, claiming exhaustion. The distance between us grew wider with each passing week. We slept in the same bed, but might as well have been in different houses. He no longer asked about my work. He stopped commenting on the dinners I made. When Lily ran to greet him at the door, he would give her a distracted hug before disappearing into his office for the rest of the evening. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself that all marriages went through rough patches. I told myself that Derek loved me, that he had always loved me, that whatever was happening was temporary. But one night, I could not ignore it anymore. I was cleaning up the kitchen after dinner when Derek's phone buzzed on the counter. He had left it there while he went to the bathroom. The screen lit up with a text message, and I glanced at it without thinking. "Miss you," the message said. cannot wait to see you tomorrow." There was a heart emoji at the end. The sender's name was just a letter. A. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring at the screen until it went dark again, my mind racing through 1,000 explanations, 1,000 excuses. Maybe it was a coworker being friendly, maybe it was a wrong number, maybe I was reading too much into an innocent message. When Derek came back, I asked him about it. I tried to keep my voice calm, but it shook anyway. "Who is A?" I asked. "Who sent you that text?" He went pale for a split second, before his face hardened. "That is none of your business," he snapped. "It is just a colleague who sent a message to the wrong person." "Why are you going through my phone?" "I was not going through it," I said. "It just lit up. I saw it by accident." He grabbed the phone and shoved it in his pocket. "You are being paranoid, Nicole. I do not have time for this." We argued, then really argued for the first time in years. Our voices rose until they filled the whole house. Lily woke up crying, and I had to leave the fight to comfort her, to rock her back to sleep while tears streamed down my own face. Derek left the house that night. He did not come back until 2 in the morning. I lay awake the whole time, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with a fear I could not name. The next morning he apologized. He said the stress was getting to him. He said he did not mean to snap at me. He said there was nothing going on, that I needed to trust him, that we were fine. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. So I did, or at least I pretended to. But from that night on, everything looked different. Every late night felt suspicious. Every phone call made me wonder. Every time he smiled, I searched his eyes for signs of the man I had married. His family did not help. That same week, Gloria invited us to a family dinner at her house. But when we arrived, she seemed surprised to see me. "Derek did not tell you?" she asked with false innocence. I thought he mentioned it was a family-only evening. I looked at Derek, waiting for him to correct her. He just shrugged and avoided my eyes. Brenda, his younger sister, made it worse. She looked me up and down when I walked in and laughed. Still wearing that old dress, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Derek must be so embarrassed. No one defended me." Richard, Derek's father, sat in his armchair reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. Marcus, Derek's younger brother, caught my eye and looked away quickly, as if he was ashamed, but not enough to speak up. I spent that dinner in silence, pushing food around my plate, feeling like an outsider in a family I had been part of for 8 years. When we got home, I asked Derek why he had not stood up for me. "That is just how they are," he said dismissively. "Do not be so sensitive." But I was not being sensitive. I was being pushed out slowly and systematically, and Derek was either participating or allowing it to happen. The husband who had promised to always protect me was standing by while his family made me feel like nothing. Something was deeply wrong. I could feel it in my bones. But I was not ready to face it yet. I was still hoping, still praying, still holding on to the dream of the life I thought we had. The day my world shattered was a Saturday in early spring. The sun was shining. The birds were singing, and I had no idea that by the end of the afternoon, everything I believed about my marriage would be destroyed. Lily had ballet class that morning. I usually picked her up at noon, but her teacher called to say they were ending early because of a scheduling conflict. So I was home by 11:30, pulling into the driveway with Lily chattering happily in the back seat about the new dance she had learned. I noticed the unfamiliar car immediately. It was a white sedan parked right in front of our house. Derek's car was in the driveway, which was strange because he had told me he was going to the office for a few hours to catch up on paperwork. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I pushed it away. Maybe a friend had stopped by. Maybe a coworker needed something. There had to be a reasonable explanation. I helped Lily out of her car seat and walked to the front door. It was unlocked, which was unusual. Derek always locked the door even when he was home. I opened it slowly, quietly, some instinct telling me to be careful. I heard laughter coming from the living room, a woman's laughter, light and flirtatious, followed by Derek's low chuckle. My feet carried me forward without my permission. I walked through the hallway, Lily's hand in mine, and stopped at the entrance to the living room. Derek was sitting on our couch with a woman I had never seen before. She was young, maybe late 20s, with blonde hair that fell in waves past her shoulders. She was wearing a tight red dress that showed off her figure, and she was leaning into Derek, her hand on his chest. He had his arm around her shoulders, and she was pregnant. Not very far along, but enough that the curve of her belly was visible beneath the fabric of her dress. They looked up when they heard me gasp. Derek's face went white. The woman, though, did not even have the decency to look ashamed. She just smiled, a small, satisfied smile that made me want to scream. Mommy Lily said, tugging at my hand. "Who is that lady?" I could not answer. My throat had closed up. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I wanted to run, to hide, to wake up from this nightmare. But I could not move. Derek stood up quickly, putting distance between himself and the woman. "Nicole," he said, "we need to talk." Those 4 words confirmed everything. We need to talk. The phrase that precedes every devastating revelation, the words that mean your life is about to change forever. I sent Lily to her room, somehow managing to keep my voice steady as I told her to watch her tablet for a little while. She went reluctantly, looking back at me with confusion in her eyes. I waited until I heard her door close before I turned back to Derek. "Who is she?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. The woman answered before Derek could. "I am Amber," she said, standing up and smoothing her dress over her belly. "Derek and I have been together for 8 months, and as you can see, I am carrying his child." The room spun. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. 8 months. For 8 months, my husband had been living a double life, and I had not known. I had suspected, yes, but suspecting is not the same as knowing. Suspecting leaves room for hope. Knowing destroys it. Derek stepped forward, his hands raised like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "Nicole, I am sorry you found out this way. I was going to tell you when I demanded. When were you going to tell me? When she gave birth? When you brought your other family to Thanksgiving dinner?" He flinched at my words. "I love her," he said quietly. "I love Amber. I want a divorce, Nicole. I want to marry her." The words hit me like physical blows. Each one knocked the breath out of me a little more. I could not believe what I was hearing. This man I had loved for 10 years, who had stood at an altar and promised to choose me forever, was standing in our living room telling me he wanted to leave. "What about Lily?" I whispered. "What about our daughter?" He sighed like I was being difficult. "She will be fine. Kids are resilient." And honestly, Nicole, our marriage has been dead for years. You just did not want to see it. I stared at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. How could he say that? How could he reduce 8 years of building a life together to nothing? Amber stepped closer, placing a protective hand over her belly. "I am sorry you had to find out this way," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "But Derek and I are meant to be together. The baby changes everything." I wanted to lunge at her. I wanted to grab her by her perfect blonde hair and drag her out of my house. But I did not. I stood there frozen, watching my life crumble around me. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. Derek moved quickly, almost as if he had been planning this for months. He hired a lawyer, a friend of his family's, and filed for divorce before I had even processed what was happening. Gloria called me the day after I found out. I expected sympathy or at least awkwardness. What I got was a lecture. Derek told me everything she said in her crisp, cold voice. I think you should accept this gracefully, Nicole. Amber is pregnant. That child needs a father. I could not believe what I was hearing. What about Lily? I asked. Your granddaughter. Does she not need her father too? Gloria made a dismissive sound. Lily will still have Derek in her life. But he deserves to be happy. Maybe if you had been a better wife, this would not have happened. I hung up on her. I had to, or I would have said something I could never take back. Brenda was even worse. She sent me a text that said simply, "Finally, Derek woke up. Amber is so much better for him." Only Marcus showed any decency. He texted me privately, his words brief but sincere. "I am sorry, Nicole. This is not right." But even he did not do anything to help. He was too weak to stand against his family. Derek's lawyer was ruthless. He accused me of being mentally unstable, of being an unfit mother. He argued that Lily would be better off with Derek and his new partner. And somehow, incredibly, the court granted Derek temporary custody while they investigated the claims. I was allowed to see my daughter for 4 hours every weekend. 4 hours. After 6 years of being her primary caregiver, of holding her when she was sick, of reading her bedtime stories every single night, I was reduced to a visitor in her life. I moved in with Harper, my best friend since college. She was a lawyer herself, sharp and fierce and loyal. She held me while I cried that first night, sobbing so hard I thought I might break apart. "We will fight this," she promised me. "We will get Lily back. Do not give up." But in those dark early days, giving up felt like the only option. I had lost my husband, my home, and my daughter in the span of a week. I had nothing left to lose, or so I thought. 2 weeks after I moved in with Harper, I started to come back to myself. The initial shock had faded enough for me to think clearly, and thinking clearly made me angry. Not the hot, impulsive anger that leads to screaming matches, but a cold, focused anger that demanded action. Harper encouraged me to investigate. If Derek was going to accuse me of being unfit, then I needed ammunition of my own. And the most obvious target was Amber. I started digging into her background. Her full name was Amber Sinclair. She was 29 years old, originally from Indiana, and had moved to Ohio about 2 years ago. Her LinkedIn profile said she worked in marketing for a company that partnered with Derek's construction firm, which explained how they had met. But something did not add up. According to her employment history, Amber had only been at her current company for 6 months. Before that, she worked at a different marketing firm across town. I did the math in my head. If Amber was 4 months pregnant and she and Derek had been together for 8 months, then she had gotten pregnant about 4 months ago. But 4 months ago, Derek was on an extended business trip to Texas. He was gone for 3 weeks straight. I remembered it clearly because Lily got the flu during that time, and I had to take care of her alone while juggling my own work deadlines. How could Amber have gotten pregnant with Derek's baby when he was 1,000 miles away? I shared my suspicions with Harper, who agreed that something did not smell right. She suggested I reach out to people who might have known Amber at her previous job. It was a long shot, but I had nothing to lose. Through some careful social media sleuthing, I found a woman named Megan, who had worked at the same company as Amber. I messaged her, introducing myself as someone looking into Amber Sinclair's background for personal reasons. To my surprise, Megan agreed to meet me for coffee. She was a petite woman in her early 30s, with a nervous energy that suggested she had been waiting for someone to ask about Amber. "I probably should not be telling you this," Megan said, stirring her latte, "but Amber caused a lot of problems at our company. She had an affair with one of the senior partners, a man named Troy Harrison. He was married with 2 kids. My heart began to race. "How long was the affair?" I asked. "About 2 years," Megan said. "Everyone knew about it, but nobody said anything because Troy was so high up. But then his wife found out. There was a huge scandal. Amber was let go, and Troy got transferred to another office to save the company the embarrassment." When did this happen? I pressed. Megan thought for a moment. About 5 months ago, maybe. Right around Christmas. The timeline clicked into place. 5 months ago, Amber was fired for having an affair with a married man. She was 4 months pregnant now. That meant she would have conceived about 4 months ago, right around the time she left her old job before she even started at the company where she met Derek. The baby was not Derek's. It could not be. The timing did not work. I thanked Megan profusely and left the coffee shop with my mind spinning. I had a theory, but I needed proof. Without evidence, it was just speculation. I told Harper everything that night. She listened carefully, her legal mind already working through the implications. If we can prove the baby is not Derek's, she said slowly, it changes everything. It shows that Amber targeted him, that she used him to cover up her pregnancy with another man's child. It destroys her credibility and his judgment. But how do we prove it, I asked. Amber is still pregnant. We cannot exactly demand a paternity test. Harper nodded. We wait. Or we hope Amber makes a mistake. 2 weeks later, she did. I got a text from an unexpected source, Marcus Derek's younger brother. He wanted to meet alone at a coffee shop on the other side of town. I went not sure what to expect. Marcus looked uncomfortable when I arrived, fidgeting with his cup and avoiding my eyes. I found something he said quietly. I do not know what it means, but I think you should see it. He slid a folded piece of paper across the table. I opened it with trembling hands. It was a medical document. A NIPT result, which I knew was a prenatal screening test. Amber's name was at the top. But what caught my attention was a section at the bottom labeled Paternity Verification. The test showed that the potential father's DNA did not match the sample provided. I stared at the paper, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. Where did you get this? I asked. Marcus swallowed hard. I found it in Derek's study. I was looking for something else and came across it in a folder on his desk. I do not think Derek knows what it means. But I did some research, and this type of test can determine paternity before the baby is born. This says Derek is not the father, I said slowly. Marcus nodded. Amber must have done the test herself, maybe to be sure before she committed to Derek. But the result came back negative. She knows the baby is not his, and she is still lying to him. I looked at Marcus, seeing him clearly for the first time. Why are you helping me? I asked. Your family has been against me from the start. He met my eyes, and I saw genuine regret there. Because this is wrong, he said. What Derek did to you, what Amber is doing to him, what my family allowed to happen. It is all wrong, and Lily deserves better than this mess. I left that meeting with the proof I needed and a plan beginning to form in my mind. Derek and Amber were throwing an engagement party at Gloria's house in 2 weeks. Everyone who mattered to them would be there. If I was going to reveal the truth, that was the place to do it. The night of the engagement party arrived faster than I expected. I spent the 2 weeks leading up to it preparing meticulously. Harper helped me verify the authenticity of the medical documents. We consulted with a colleague of hers who specialized in family law, making sure that everything we had was legally obtained and admissible. The party was being held at Gloria's house, a sprawling colonial in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Columbus. About 40 guests had been invited, family, friends, colleagues. Anyone who was important to Derek and Amber would be there to celebrate their upcoming wedding. I was not on the guest list, obviously. But Marcus had agreed to leave the back door unlocked. He would not actively help me once I was inside, but he would not stop me either. I spent longer than usual getting ready that evening. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I wanted to walk into that room feeling strong. I chose a simple navy dress, elegant but understated. I did my makeup carefully, making sure I looked composed and confident. I was not there to cause a scene. I was there to deliver the truth. Before I left, I called Lily. She was with a babysitter, one I trusted completely. I told her I loved her and that everything would be okay soon. She said she missed me. I said I missed her too. Then I hung up and walked out the door. Harper drove me to the house and parked down the street. She would wait for me ready to leave as soon as I was done. "You do not have to do this," she said as I opened the car door. "We could just present the evidence in court." I shook my head. "They took everything from me, Harper. My home, my daughter, my dignity. They made me feel like I was crazy, like I was the problem. I need them to know the truth. All of them." She nodded and squeezed my hand. "Go get them." I walked around to the back of the house, my heels clicking softly on the stone path. The door was unlocked, just as Marcus had promised. I slipped inside and made my way through the kitchen toward the sounds of laughter and conversation coming from the main living area. I paused at the entrance to the room, taking in the scene. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over elegant furniture. Guests mingled with champagne flutes in their hands, dressed in their finest clothes. A table in the corner was piled with beautifully wrapped gifts. And at the center of it all stood Derek and Amber. She was glowing, dressed in a cream-colored gown that draped elegantly over her pregnant belly. He stood beside her, his arm around her waist, beaming with the pride of a man who thought he had it all figured out. Gloria was at the front of the room, holding a microphone. She was in the middle of a speech, talking about how happy she was to welcome Amber into the family, how excited she was about the new grandchild on the way. And soon, Gloria was saying, we will welcome a new addition to our family. I could not be more thrilled for Derek and Amber. The room burst into applause. That was my cue. I stepped out of the shadows and walked calmly into the center of the room. The applause died down as people noticed me. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Gloria stopped mid-sentence, her face contorting with shock and anger. "What are you doing here? You were not invited." Derek looked like he had seen a ghost. "Nicole," he hissed, "leave now. You are embarrassing yourself." Amber clutched his arm, a smirk playing at the corners of her lips. "Poor thing," she said loud enough for nearby guests to hear. She just cannot let go. I did not respond to any of them. Instead, I walked steadily toward the center table where Derek and Amber stood. I was aware of every eye in the room following me, but I kept my focus straight ahead. When I reached the table, I placed a manila folder on its polished surface. I opened it and spread out the documents inside. "Before you announce your wedding date," I said, my voice clear and steady, "I think everyone in this room should see this." Derek grabbed the top paper, his face flushing red. "What is this nonsense?" "It is a prenatal paternity test," I replied. Amber had it done 2 months ago. The results are right there in black and white. The room went utterly silent. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I continued, making sure my voice carried to every corner. "The test shows that the baby Amber is carrying is not yours, Derek." Amber's face went pale. "That is a lie," she shrieked. "She is making this up because she is jealous." I remained calm. The test was done at a certified laboratory. Amber requested it herself. I have the original documents here along with the lab verification. Anyone who wants to check is welcome to do so. Derek was reading the papers now, his hands visibly shaking. His face had gone from red to ashen white. He looked at Amber with something I had never seen in his eyes before: doubt. "Is this true?" he asked quietly. Amber started to cry, but the tears looked practiced, theatrical. "Derek, I can explain. It is not what you think." Gloria pushed through the crowd, snatching the documents from Derek's hands. "This must be a mistake," she insisted. "There is no way." I pulled out another sheet and held it up. "I also have information about the actual father. His name is Troy Harrison. He was a senior partner at Amber's previous company. They had a 2-year affair while he was married. Amber was fired when Troy's wife found out." Gasps echoed around the room. I saw guests pulling out their phones, some recording, others texting. The perfectly orchestrated engagement party was unraveling before everyone's eyes. Brenda pushed forward, her face twisted with rage. "How dare you come here and ruin everything?" I met her gaze without flinching. "I did not ruin anything, Brenda. I just showed everyone the truth that was already there." Derek dropped the papers on the table and turned to Amber. His expression had shifted from confusion to fury. "You lied to me," he said, his voice rising. "You used me." Amber reached for him, desperate. "Derek, please. I love you. The baby does not change how I feel about you." He pushed her away. "The baby does not matter. You told me it was mine. You said we were starting a family together. I left my wife for you." The words hung in the air like a verdict. I watched as Derek looked around the room, seeing the expressions on his guests' faces. There was no admiration there anymore. No congratulations. Only shock, pity, and in some cases barely concealed contempt. One of Derek's old college friends spoke up from near the bar. "Man," he said, shaking his head, "you left Nicole for this?" "Seriously." Derek had no answer. He stood there diminished, exposed, a man who had thrown away everything for a lie. Amber was still crying, still trying to explain, but no one was listening anymore. Some guests started gathering their things, uncomfortable witnesses to a family implosion. Gloria sank into a nearby chair, her face gray, her perfectly planned evening in ruins. I looked at Derek one last time. The man I had loved, the father of my child, the person I had built a life with. "I did not come here for revenge," I said quietly. "I came here because everyone deserved to know the truth, including you." Then I turned and walked out of the room. No one tried to stop me. I walked out of Gloria's house with my head held high through the elegant foyer and out the front door. Harper was waiting in the car right where I had left her. I climbed in, closed the door, and let out a breath I had been holding for what felt like months. "How do you feel?" Harper asked, studying my face. "Free," I said. "For the first time in months, I feel free." She nodded and started the engine. We drove away in silence for a while, the streetlights casting moving shadows across the dashboard. I stared out the window, watching the fancy houses give way to more modest neighborhoods, processing everything that had just happened. The weight that had been pressing on my chest since that awful Saturday when I found Derek and Amber together had finally lifted. I had done what I needed to do, not for revenge, not for satisfaction, but for the simple power of truth. When we got back to Harper's apartment, I sat on her couch and cried. Not from sadness this time, but from relief. The battle was not over, not completely. But I had won an important round. 2 weeks later, we had our follow-up hearing about custody. The atmosphere in the courtroom was completely different this time. Derek's lawyer seemed deflated, shuffling papers without his previous confidence. Derek himself looked like he had aged 10 years. His suit was slightly wrinkled. His eyes had dark circles under them, and he would not meet my gaze. Harper presented our case methodically. She showed the court evidence that Derek had knowingly made false statements about my mental health. She documented his affair and his decision to prioritize his relationship with Amber over his daughter's stability. She presented testimony from Lily's teachers and pediatrician, all confirming that I had always been a devoted, attentive mother. Most damning of all, she presented the context around the paternity test. Derek had been so convinced of his new life that he had not even verified that the child was his. He had disrupted his daughter's life, tried to take her away from her mother, all based on a lie. The judge listened to everything without interrupting. When both sides had finished, she took a moment to review her notes. Her ruling was clear and decisive. Full custody was awarded to me. Derek would have visitation rights every other weekend and alternating holidays, but he was no longer Lily's primary guardian. When the gavel came down, I hugged Harper so tightly, I thought I might squeeze the air out of her. "We did it," she whispered. You did it. The day I went to pick up Lily from Derek's house was one of the happiest of my life. She came running out the door the moment she saw me, her little legs pumping as fast as they could carry her. Mommy, she launched herself into my arms and I caught her spinning her around, breathing in the smell of her hair. I missed you so much, she said, her face buried in my neck. I missed you too, baby. I held her tighter. But you are coming home now. You are coming home with me. Derek stood in the doorway watching. He looked broken, hollowed out. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I put Lily in the car and walked back to face him one last time. She needs both her parents, I said. I will not keep her from you. But you need to be present for her, Derek. Really present. Not distracted by whatever new life you think you want. He nodded, unable to speak. I got in the car and drove away, Lily chattering happily in the back seat about everything I had missed. Her new friend at school, the book she was reading, the dream she had last night. I listened to every word, treasuring each one. A month later, Derek showed up at my new apartment. I had found a nice 2-bedroom place in a good school district with a small balcony where I was growing herbs in pots. He looked terrible. Thinner. Pale. The cockiness that had defined him was gone. Nicole, he said when I opened the door, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Please give me another chance. I looked at him, this man I had loved for a decade. I searched inside myself for anger, for bitterness, for the desire to hurt him the way he had hurt me. But there was nothing. Just a quiet emptiness where those feelings used to live. You did not make a mistake, Derek, I said calmly. You made a choice. For 8 months, you chose to lie to me. You chose to humiliate me. You tried to take my daughter away. Those were not mistakes. Those were decisions. He started to cry. Amber tricked me, he pleaded. I was blinded. Amber did not force you to leave, I replied. You left because you wanted to. And now you want to come back because your plan failed. I am not your backup plan, Derek. I am not a safety net for when your other life falls apart. He stood there, tears streaming down his face, looking for words that would change my mind. There were none. Goodbye, Derek, I said. Take care of yourself. I closed the door gently and walked away. Gloria sent me a long text message a few days later. It was full of apologies, explanations, excuses. She admitted she had been wrong to side with Derek without hearing my side. She said she regretted how she had treated me over the years. I read the message once, then put my phone away without responding. Her apology did not change anything. It did not undo years of feeling unwelcome in her home, of being compared unfavorably to imaginary daughters, in law of being blamed for problems I did not create. Brenda never apologized. I did not expect her to. Richard caught me one afternoon when he came to pick up Lily for Derek's weekend. He stood awkwardly on my doorstep, his hands in his pockets. I am sorry, he said simply. We failed you as a family. I nodded, accepting his words without comment. He meant well. But meaning well and doing something were two different things. I did not need their apologies to move forward. I had already found my own closure. Healing is not a straight line. In the months after the custody hearing, I had good days and bad days. Some nights, I woke up angry, reliving every lie, every betrayal, every moment Derek had made me doubt myself. I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, composing speeches I would never deliver, thinking of all the things I should have said or done differently. Other nights I woke up sad, grieving the future I had imagined, the family vacations we would never take, the anniversaries we would never celebrate, the simple comfort of growing old with someone who knew you inside and out. I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Reynolds, who specialized in helping people recover from traumatic relationships. She taught me that my feelings were valid, that anger and grief were natural responses to what I had been through. She also taught me to let go, not to forget, not to pretend it never happened, but to stop carrying the weight of Derek's choices as if they were my responsibility. I started practicing yoga, stretching my body into positions that felt impossible at first, but gradually became comfortable. I learned to meditate, to sit with my thoughts, without judgment, to breathe through the moments when the past threatened to overwhelm me. Harper was a constant presence, a steady anchor in my new life. We had dinner together every Wednesday night, rotating between our apartments, taking turns cooking. She listened when I needed to talk and distracted me when I needed to laugh. I threw myself into my work with renewed energy. My boss noticed the change and offered me a promotion to department head. I accepted, proud of what I had accomplished on my own merit. Lily thrived in our new home. She decorated her room with butterfly stickers and drawings of flowers. She made new friends at her school and came home bubbling with stories about playground adventures and classroom projects. She asked about Derek sometimes. Why Daddy lived somewhere else now, whether he still loved her. I answered her questions as honestly as I could without burdening her with adult complications. Your daddy loves you very much, I told her. Sometimes grown-ups need to live apart, but that does not change how much we love you. She seemed to accept this with the resilience that children have when they are surrounded by love and stability. As the months passed, I began to rediscover parts of myself that had been buried under the weight of my marriage. I had forgotten how much I loved reading, and I started devouring books again, staying up late to finish just one more chapter. I joined a running club that met on Saturday mornings, pushing myself through miles of pavement while the sun rose over the city. I made new friends, people who knew me only as Nicole, the woman who loved her daughter and worked hard and had a great laugh. They did not know about Derek or the scandal or the tears I had cried. To them, I was simply me, and that felt liberating. A year after the divorce was finalized, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back, not because I had changed physically, but because my eyes were different. The wariness was gone. The constant vigilance for signs of betrayal had faded. In its place was something I had not felt in a long time: peace. I thought a lot about forgiveness, whether I owed it to Derek, whether it was necessary for my healing, whether it would make me a better person. Eventually, I realized that forgiveness was not something I owed anyone. It was something I gave myself. I could let go of the anger without excusing what Derek had done. I could move forward without pretending the past had not happened. Forgiveness did not mean reconciliation. It meant freedom. Derek would always be Lily's father. I could not change that, and I would not try to. But he was no longer the center of my universe. He was a peripheral figure, someone I coordinated with about drop-offs and pickups, nothing more. The dreams I used to have about our life together faded and were replaced by new dreams. Dreams about travel, about career achievements, about watching Lily grow into the person she was meant to be. Dreams that belonged to me alone. One Sunday morning, Lily and I were walking through the park near our apartment. The leaves were turning gold and red, and the air had that crisp autumn smell that always made me feel hopeful. Mommy Lily asked, skipping along beside me, "Will you ever get married again?" I smiled down at her. "Maybe someday," I said, "if I meet someone who deserves us. But for now, we are pretty great. Just the two of us, right?" She nodded enthusiastically. The best team ever. I laughed and scooped her up, spinning her around while she giggled. In that moment, with the sun on our faces and the leaves crunching under our feet, I felt complete. I had lost a marriage, but I had found myself. I had been betrayed by someone I trusted, but I had discovered people who truly had my back. I had been knocked down, but I had gotten up stronger than before. Life was not perfect. It never would be. But it was mine, and that was enough. If you are going through something similar right now, I want you to know this. The truth always finds its way out, and you are stronger than you realize. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can become the best thing for you. You just have to give yourself the chance to see it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this story. Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything? How did you find the courage to start over? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you have not subscribed, yet hit that subscribe button so you do not miss more stories like this one. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am grateful for each and every one of you. Wishing you strength, peace, and the courage to always choose yourself.